Okay, so we're going to talk about how to graph this function y equals 3x minus 1. So this is what you would call a linear function because when you graph it, it makes a line. Later on, we're going to figure out some tricks to make this easier. But if you don't know what a function is going to look like, you kind of start by just plugging stuff in. So you make up some x values, like let's say -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And then you put those in for x, and then you see what y equals when x equals that.
Oh, we did this last year.
So what is y going to equal when x is -2? 3 times -2 minus 1
-5.
-7. Okay.
-7. Same
So when x is -2, y is -7. So on the graph, that's going to be the point -2, -7. And you just keep going. I'll do this kind of quickly. If I plug in -1, 3 times -1 minus 1, -4. 3 times 0 minus 1, 3 times 1 minus 1, 3 times 2 minus 1. Okay, and then these are points on the graph. This is -2, -7, like we graphed last week. And it'll show a picture of what this equation looks like when you graph it. -2, -7 is off on the graph a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little bit low here. -1, -4, right there. 0, -1, 1, 2, 2, 5. All right. See the pattern? I kind of screwed up right there. The pattern goes up 3 into the right one. I didn't draw it very straight. That's close enough. All right. And then you can connect the dots. This right here, y equals 3x minus 1, is the exact same thing as f of x equals 3x minus 1. Okay, so the only difference is if you say what is x when x is -2, this is how you would write that. When x is -2, what does the function equal? Well, we already did it. It's -7. Okay, so the notation just looks a little bit different, but it still would be the point -2, -7 on the graph. This is the x value. This is the function value, which is like the same thing as the y value. So you put it on the y-axis. All right. I think we briefly mentioned this last week. How can we tell whether something's a function or not? You guys remember?
One y value for every x value.
Like maybe this is the last problem or something like this. Is this a function?
Yes.
Yeah, because all of these points have different y values, or x values. So remember, if the x values don't repeat, it is a function. So this would be yes, it's a function. What would make it not a function? Right, if it has the same x value. So if you had 1, 1 and 1, 2, it's not a function. So basically, we call this the vertical line test. If you can draw a vertical line anywhere and it hits the graph twice, it fails. So this is not a function. Okay, vertical line test. So, is this a function? Yes, passes the vertical line test. Only it's the line once. Is this a function?
No.
Yes, passes the vertical line test. Even though this line is getting steeper and steeper, it's called a parabola. It never goes straight vertical. So it'll always pass the vertical line test. Okay, but then if we turn it sideways, is this a function?
No.
No, that fails the vertical line test. Okie dokie. That's not everything, but that's enough to get us going. Number 1. The graphs don't start until number 13, but if you want to put it all on graph paper, it's fine. Number 1 through 6, these are really quick. Slows down after that. Is number 1 a function? Does it pass the vertical line test?
Yes.
Yes. Anywhere you draw a vertical line, it only hits the graph once. Is number 3 a function?
Yes.
No.
No. No. At x equals 1 and x equals 2 and x equals -1 and -2, it will hit those dots, those 2 dots.
I was looking at 2.
So number 3 is a no. Is number 5 a function?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Number 7, they're going to make us do a little bit more work. So for each graph relation, state its domain and range, and then whether it is a function or not. So what did domain mean? Right, x values. So, and then the range is the y values. So remember, x values go left and right, right? So that leftmost point is what, -4, -2, I think it is. So what is the x value for this point?
-4.
-4. So in our domain, -4 would be like the smallest x value. If I move 1 step to the right, what's the next x value? -3. There's 2 points, like here and here, whatever, at -3. Okay, and then if I move, what's the next x value? There's a point right here. What's its x value? -1. And then right here, what's the x value of this point? 0. 0, -1. So that's the domain. Just list all the x values. For the range, remember the y values go up and down. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. What's the lowest y value in that picture?
3. -3.
-3. There's one right here and one right here. So this is like at 1, -3. This is -3, -3. Sorry, -1, -3. Anyways, the lowest y value is -3. And then going up, what's the next lowest y value?
-2.
Yeah, there is a point with a -2 y value. And then going up, like this is the next lowest point, -1. Then what's the y value for this point? 0. Okay, is it a function?
No.
No. Fails the vertical line test right there. So don't forget to put a yes or no. All right, number 9. Okay, so starting with the domain, the x values go left and right. So let's start with the leftmost point. What is the x value of that point way over on the left?
-4.
-4. Yeah, it looks like the graphs go to -6 and +6. Anyway, so it's 4 to the left. So the smallest member of the domain is -4. And then there's a point just to the left of the y-axis. What's its x value? -1. And then there's a point on the y-axis.
0.
Right. That has an x value of 0. And take 1 step to the right. Well, if you look 1 step to the right, 1 step to the right, 1 step to the right, all those have a point on them. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then the range is the y value. So what's the lowest y value on number 9? 1. There's a bunch of points on this line, but yeah, they have a y value of 1. And then the highest y value, 2. And that's all. Doesn't matter that they repeat. Is it a function?
Yes.
Yeah. It passes the vertical line test. There's no points on top of each other. So it's all good. Okay, 10, 11, 12. This is where it gets more challenging. It's different. What's different about 10, 11, and 12?
No line.
Okay, the lines. So lines represent a continuous set of points. So there's not just a few points here and there. There's a continuous set of points. So how are we going to do the domain? Before I do number 11, let's do a practice problem. Let's make something up here. This might be too hard for the first one. Okay, let's just go with they did a squiggly on mine. Stop. Okay. It's kind of a mess. All right. So let's start with domain. Okay, domain is x value. So you have to think about left and right. So the smallest x value is right here because that's farthest to the left. What's the x value of this point? -3. Okay, and then it goes all the way. Is it warm in here?
Feels good. Cold.
Humid or something.
We actually don't want that.
Maybe it's just the rain.
I might freeze to death. Please don't. Yeah, it's cold.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Can we go outside?
Oh,
All right. What's the on this one? Let's just stick with this one for now. What's the x value right there? 1.
Turn around.
So not only are -3 and 1 included, but all the points in between those are included. So how do we show that? You guys remember this trick?
Yeah.
I don't remember what chapter that was.
We opened the window. Well, it's raining.
No, I can't. We can't. It's
Mr. Frederick always opens the window.
it's broken.
Oh.
Wait, it'd be so aesthetic with the.
Oh my
God. We can do that this
No, literally, I want to be like.
Okay. Shh.
That was amazing.
Hush. So the x values from -3 to 1. This is how you would write that. Okay. But then it picks up again. What's the x value right here? 2. Is 2 included? No. Because that's an open circle right there. So this has an x value of 2. What's the x value right here?
Negative.
3, 4, 5. It's x value of 5. So this would be the domain. Okay. So it's how do we cancel school? Okay.
Quiet kid now.
The range is the y values. So what's the y value for this line? 1. So it's not a continuous set of points. There's only one y value for this. It's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So y equals 1. Comma. What's the y values from here to here? Shh. The lowest y value is -3. The highest y value is 0. So the y values run from -3 to 0.
I don't like this.
Okay, does that make sense? This has a y value of 1. It doesn't go below or above that. This y value runs from -3 to 0. This is -3.
Who finally decided to show up? Who's that? Zach. I thought you were getting your chapter. Oh, that's good. Get caught lying.
Yeah, all the bridges were flooded, so I couldn't get out. And so, like, 20 minutes later.
You like being taken out of getting caught.
So on 10, let's talk about it. I'm not going to, well, actually let's do 11 first. I changed my mind. Okay. No, we did not. This is number 11. Okay, so we're starting with the domain, and that means x values, so we got to think left and right. So how far left does the graph go on number 11? That very bottom point is at -2. Okay, and -2, the circle is filled in, so that would be equal to -2. And then how far right does the graph go? +2. The book always uses braces. I kind of been skipping them, but that's what they wrote. All the points, all the x values between -2 and 2 are filled in, if you're thinking left and right. Okay, on range, it's the y value, so we got to think about up and down. So let's start down. How low does the graph go?
4. -4.
-4. And that point is included, so -4 is less than or equal to y. Then how high does the graph go?
Up 4.
+4, and that's points included.
Think I'm starting
Yeah.
Okay, is it a function?
Yes.
Yes. It does pass the vertical line test.
Even down at the bottom?
Yep. It does look like it's getting very close to vertical, but it's not.
In my calculation.
It's not going vertical ever. It's just getting close to it. Okay, 10, I'm not going to write this down, but let's talk about it. So you got to think about, yeah, you can write it down. You got to think about the domain as left and right. So how far left does the graph go?
-2.
-2. How far right does it go?
+2.
Are all the x values in between there filled in?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that would be the domain. But for the range, what's the lowest y value?
1.
1. What's the highest y value?
3. Or 2.
2. Are the y values between there filled in?
No.
No. So on the range, it's just 1 and 2. Okay, it's not a continuous set of points. The domain is a continuous set of points. So the range on number 10 is going to look more like the range on number 7 or 8 or 9. Those problems. Okay, anyways. We tried. Okay, 13. So they wrote a bunch of stuff down. Not all of it is important. At the beginning, they wrote x comma y. That doesn't do anything. That's just telling you what the two variables are. All right. So you kind of ignore that. Then they wrote y equals 3x. That's important. That is the function. And then they put semicolon x equals -1/1. Okay. So what do you guys think the x equals blah, blah, blah? What do you think this means? That's what you plug in for x. So what we're going to do is make a little table. It's pretty small. And for the x values, we're going to put -1, 0, and 1. Okay, they're telling us the domain is only these three numbers. Those are the only three we're going to plug in. So if I plug in -1 for x, what's y going to equal? -3. If I plug in 0 for x, what's y going to equal? 0. 3 times 0 is 0. If I plug in 1, 3 times 1 is 3. Okay. Then we're supposed to graph this. So these are the points. This is like -1, -3. These are the ordered pairs. 0, 0, and 1, 3. All right, that is a picture of the equation. Now, we are not supposed to connect the dots on this.
Oh, too late.
The reason is there's only 3 numbers in the domain. So there's only those 3 points. It's not a continuous set of infinite points. There's only 3 dots. 3 points, 3 dots, that's all. If the domain is unlimited, that's when you connect the dots because it can be infinite points. All right, this is something, okay, we need to stop and talk about this for a second. This is something that people kind of have trouble getting a hold of. But what do these points have to do with this equation? How is that connected to this? Okay, these points represent these numbers, right? This represents 1, 3 right here. This point represents 1, 3. And 1, 3 is a solution to this equation. Okay, these are the points that represent the numbers that work in this equation. Okay, we'll talk more about that later, but we'll just keep going for now. 15, we need a new page. Okay, I'm just writing down the important part. F of x is 2x plus 3. X equals -2, 0, 1, 1. Okay, so we gotta plug in 4 this time. -2, 0, 1/2, and 1. Technically, maybe instead of putting a y right there, I should have put a f of x. But it's the same thing as y, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, if I plug in -2 right here, what am I going to get?
-1.
Yeah. 2 times -2 is -4, plus 3 is -1. If I plug in 0, what's 2 times 0 plus 3?
3.
If I plug in 1/2, what's 2 times 1/2?
1.
1 plus 3
5.
is 4.
Or 4 screen.
And then 2 plus 1 is 2 plus 3.
Mr. Gordon, we should have run this earlier because this was all what our PSATs were. It was all of this. It was just functions. So it was
Everybody had different tests, so
all of mine was just functions. And I
well, I can't really help that.
There was a lot of FMX.
Yeah, FX. What's that?
But it was like something I've never heard of before, so we.
Yeah.
I was
I had a bunch at least I knew ones where you need a formula, and I didn't know that there's a whole formula like thing until.
Yeah, you guys probably just haven't learned a lot of that stuff yet. It's okay. Okay. So -2, -1, -2, -1, 0, 3. How do I get to 1/2, 4? It actually still is a line, but we're still not connecting the dots though.
It's so random.
Oh, cool, you know, I didn't know you were here.
It's so cute. I want to name my kid Pinocchio.
I didn't know you were here. Sorry.
Gussie, the freak.
I'll walk out, how are you? This is where I go today. Mr. Jordan, I threw up when I first got here. We had, all of my bridges were flooded, so like we were locked in basically. There's only 2 ways to get out of my house, and they were both flooded. So we had to wait, and then we had to go the long way, and it's like this the whole way, and I got car sick, and then I walked into school and I threw up, so they were pretty happy.
Like 5 minutes ago?
Did you?
Like 10 minutes ago. I walked in this class at 8:20,
Did
so I was making sure I was gonna throw up.
It was like 8:20.
I got here at 8:05.
Was she late or not?
I don't know. Do they count you late if it's like a legitimate, like, reason? Like
No.
I
I think
was
it might
late.
be excused.
There's
Yeah, it's excused.
there's an excuse, Tardy. Yeah. But your parents still have to call.
Oh, I'll avoid that.
Guys, I watched Cars this weekend. I love Cars. I watched Cars this weekend.
Oh, my siblings are getting pulled out, by the way.
Yeah, I heard. Weird. You guys weird.
Mhm.
Why are you getting pulled up?
No, I'm not. We're
Why are
good.
you?
I'm good, because they have F's and I don't. And their room smells like barf and mine doesn't. So
That's
they're
so
they're having to go to VHS.
Okay, let's stop.
Or Bartlesville, I guess.
What is? Isn't ours more scary than yours?
Yeah, my mom said if they go there, they might not graduate, so she might just homeschool. She's not sure yet.
Okay. On 17, it says make a table of ordered pairs and graph the function. State the function's domain and range. So this one's different because they're not telling us what x values to use, which means the domain is unlimited. So we'll just use the x values that are in the middle of the graph. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2.
What?
Maybe I should do 18 instead of 17.
No, it's easy, we get it, you can just wear whatever you get.
Okay. Well, yeah, but a lot of people get it wrong, so I'm gonna do 18 instead. Because we haven't seen an x squared yet. So when you just have like a y equals x, you get lines. Like every graph we've done so far is a line. But when you do x squared, the shape is different.
It's a curve.
Yeah, have you guys seen this before?
No, I just know it's a curve.
Parabolas. Okay, but we're gonna use the same domain. We're gonna use the
Are you speaking Chinese?
same- No,
Chinese
it's not.
is dumb language.
Okay, if I plug in -2, what's this gonna become? It'll be +4. Because -2 times -2, -2 squared, +4.
Positive 4.
If I plug in -1,
You're one.
-1 times -1 is 1. If I plug in 0, 0. If I plug in 1, 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4.
You're going really fast.
That's almost 14 then.
Wait, so we're not doing 17? No.
14 is pretty similar to this.
Wait, we have to.
The difference, we've been graphing the last 2 problems.
Do we have to do?
I really like this.
Okay, but this one, because the domain is unlimited, these 5 points that I drew are not the whole thing. So we actually do connect the dots on these.
That's disgusting. I literally saw his note. It was bigger than his fucking 5 minutes ago.
That's gross.
So
Disgusting.
this shape, we'll talk more about these later, but it's called a parabola.
What?
Parabola.
Bro, Trace, if you don't stop making sound effects, then it's literally not funny. One person is laughing, and that's your
stretching.
girlfriend.
You're bad.
Sorry, Lilo, but literally one person is laughing. And it's not
And
funny.
Layton, I'm not even laughing, guys.
Layton loves it everything.
Layton's just an exception.
Because he's
but you're-
12, guys.
you're literally-
I'm stretching. Like, can I not stretch?
No,
Ooh, stop with the sound effects. It's
Speed
gross.
bumps. You're going to get it.
Wait, stop laughing. You're not
Okay,
laughing.
17, if you do this one right, it should be a straight line.
That'd be a straight
And you do connect the dots on 17, as opposed to 13.
Wait, but it's not, do I put the arrows?
Yes. Oh, we were supposed to say domain and range and stuff, weren't we?
Yeah, we have no money.
Well, this one's a little bit harder. The domain is the x values. What x values are included?
-2, 1, 0.
Okay, no.
Just kidding.
The line means it keeps going, not just at those points. So the domain is actually, because the graph will keep going out, it's infinite, goes forever in both directions. So the domain is all real numbers.
Are you recording?
Yeah. And the range is the y values. What y values are we including here?
1, 0.
All of
Everything
these.
up.
Everything from 0 and up.
So X is greater than.
So y values greater than or equal to 0. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I did.
Don't forget to do 17. That's worth like 2 points.
Yeah, 2 whole points. I'm just kidding. That was good.
Or actually maybe 2. I don't know. 2, 2.5, something like that.